Sten, we're live.
Thank you, Larry the Liberty Guy. Welcome back to In the Dugout. I am your host, Mike Stenhouse, and I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. But first, we're in the dugout, so let me wear my cap, and I'm going to go back to my Pawtucket Red Sox pause cap, because today is opening day. They're on the road, but it is opening day for the Worcester, the Red Sox, the Woo Sox, and I really think Rhode Islanders are going to regret the loss of the Pawtucket Red Sox. Such a great community partner, one of only 30 AAA franchises in all of America. You know, we're not normally for corporate welfare or handouts, but if you want to have a professional baseball team and a stadium, and a nice stadium in your state or in your city, it's the exception, I think, to the rule. It was a crown jewel of this state, the Pawtucket Red Sox, and the politics was sickening that got involved, even to the point where I couldn't say what I wanted to say because I knew so many of you, got caught up in the politics. And we're again, don't forget, this was shortly after the Kurt Schilling 38 Studios debacle. Didn't want any money to go to anything Red Sox anymore, or even though we're giving money to all kinds of other companies to create jobs and whatnot. It just became such a political hot potato. I felt it was the one exception to the rule, and I'm disappointed in myself now that I kept myself quiet during that time, because we did normally oppose most all corporate handouts, but today it really hits home. They're beginning the season with the Worcester Red Sox. They're going to be home, I think, next Tuesday is the first home game in Rhode Island. Once again, we gave ourselves a self-inflicted wound, and we're going to be shut out from professional AAA baseball. Very good baseball. And my saying at the time, if Rhode Island wants to consider itself a big league state, at least we can do like other cities and states and fund a minor league team or stadium, I should say. Of course, the team itself is private. So anyway, got the Pawtucket Red Sox on. All right, today we're going to give you an update. Yesterday we had a guest, Roland Benjamin, on talking about this union debacle in South Kingston where they're pushing for a referendum. We're going to give you those results in just a minute, where they mailed pro-spending political vote for the wasteful spending bond mailers to students. Somehow they obtained names and addresses of students and sent them. Why would they send them? I don't know. And so they sent them vote for the bond. And that vote was yesterday. We'll tell you how that turned out. There's outrage among parents down there, investigations underway, maybe policy changes, maybe resignations. I don't know. We'll follow the story. We'll keep you posted. But last night, the results did come in on the bond referenda itself that was at the core of all this. We're going to spend quite a bit of time right after that, maybe 10 or 15 minutes on this Caitlyn Jenner campaign for governor in California. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating for so many reasons. And we'll get into that in just a few minutes. We've got a Catholic alert in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to have a special guest. I think it's his first time on the show, Tyler Rowley. We had his brother Travis on once before. Tyler is a great Christian Catholic in our state, speaks up on a lot of social conservative issues. He's been involved in books. He writes blog posts, and he wrote an article that recently appeared in a major Catholic magazine that was reproduced on our Ocean State Current. Why fathers should take their families to Mass. So we're going to talk to Tyler. So if you're Catholic, especially tuned in, or I think this applies to any religion as well, but in this case, it is a Catholic. And then we're going to have a really interesting guest in the last segment of our show. You won't know his name, and you may not even know much about the topic we're going to talk about, but it's a topic that we're all going to have to get very comfortable with in the coming years and decades for sure. And the topic is, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. What the hell are these things? I mean, I've got some understanding of what they are, but I really don't know that much. Well, tonight, our special guest at about, in about 35 minutes from now is going to give us the ABCs of both of those topics. We'll have a little working knowledge of what blockchain technology is, why it could change the world, really. And cryptocurrency. Is that legit or is that some kind of short-term fad? So stay tuned for that. So that's today. That's really going to be an interesting show today. Tomorrow, two guests. We're going to talk small business issues and the state economy with the state director of National Federation of Independent Businesses in Rhode Island. That's Chris Carlozzi. And of course, tomorrow at 4:30, we'll have our traditional final half hour with Dr. Andrew Boston. We got some really, really interesting topics to talk with him about. There's some, we've always been talking about the fear mongering of the left about this pandemic. There's also some fear mongering on the right about the vaccine. Is it founded or are they unfounded? So we're going to go through some of those really controversial issues tomorrow with Dr. Andrew Boston. Okay, let's go back to South Kingston. So despite the controversy, despite the major blunder now by the unions. Now remember, these unions, let me backtrack. When we used to think we had a chance to influence legislative outcomes by putting out research and putting out advocacy and going to testify and submitting testimony to lawmakers up on Smith Hill. I used to spend quite a bit of time at the State House. And I can't tell you how many times people came up to me, when certain bills would come up, say, listen, the real secret of the state is the government and especially the private unions run this state. Everything is designed to increase their power, to increase their membership, to increase their funding, to make sure there's enough funding for the government unions, make sure there's enough construction work or other work for the private trade unions, because they're the real political power in this state. And it's true. And if you look through things in our state in that lens, you'll see that almost everything, the debate they're having right now about this bill about requiring more workers at nursing homes and assisted living facilities. There's no need for it. The whole purpose of that bill is to force private employers, private care providers to hire more union workers so that more workers pay more dues, which means unions have more political power. It's that simple. Almost everything in the state is that way, like the bond they voted on in South Kingston yesterday. Should they spend $85 million, not to build a new high school complex, but to upgrade and refurbish buildings? And there was a big, and in their absolute desperation to see this bill pass so that they could guarantee more union construction jobs, the unions, for some inexplicable reason, sent mailers to kids to vote for the bond. Like kids are going to influence their parents. Hey, we need the money for our schools so we can have better schools. I don't know what the thinking was. But how did they get the names and addresses of every student in South Kingston? That's under investigation. One union member, the union that sent it out, the AFL-CIO said, oh, we got it from another union. Well, what union? How? Who gave it to them? Under what pretense? Under what law? Under what policy? All this is going to be investigated. But whether it was that highly publicized blunder or just that people are smartening up, the $85 million bond got crushed and defeated yesterday. A final vote of 5,244 against the bond and only 1,967 for the bond. That means 73% voted against the bond. Good for South Kingston voters, taxpayers waking up to the truth. Not so many people living in this leftist union never pretend land that seems to dominate so much. All right. What about this? What is going on in California? This is Caitlyn Jenner's logo, sign, I guess. Again, I'm going to call the former Bruce Jenner by whatever name he wants to go by. Caitlyn, that's fine. You want to be called, but I'm not going to pretend that he's a she. So I'm going to call Caitlyn a he. Don't be upset. I'm not trying to be insensitive. It's just my belief system. I don't believe that anybody that was born a he can become a she. I just don't. Okay, period. But anyway, this is going to create such problems for the left and for the right, for Democrats and for Republicans. Now, we're going to play for you in just a minute Caitlyn Jenner's 3-minute initial campaign ad. The ad is incredible. It's incredible, appealing. I'm not sure it's necessarily conservative. I'm not sure it's necessarily not conservative, but it's common sense. It's common sense. And we already know that Caitlyn Jenner has some common sense and you know, a transgender person himself. Caitlyn does not believe that transgender original boys should compete in girls' sports. It's just unfair. As a former world-class athlete himself, the best athlete in the world, when Caitlyn was a he or identified as a he, the decathlon winner and the Olympic decathlon winner, understands competition, how unfair it would be. So some sense of common sense. But we're going to play the video for you. We're going to listen to some of the messages that are in the video. We'll stop it and comment and then go on. It's a 3-minute video. We're not going to play it all at once, but we'll comment and think about what Caitlyn Jenner is saying. And then afterwards, we're going to think about how this is going to create massive problems for Republicans, for conservatives, for liberals, for Democrats, for the progressive woke left. How the hell are they going to handle this? I mean, this is well, they probably wouldn't consider Caitlyn woke, but this is a transgender person identifying as a Republican, okay, to use the terminology. So the question here, is the cancel culture going to cancel Caitlyn or not? It's going to be fair. And will Republicans accept transgender Caitlyn or not? I think ultimately it's going to come down to Caitlyn's policies and his ideas. See, it's easy to do that, and his ideas and his policies. So let's go through this, and let's see what you think. Let me share my screen. I'm not the best in the world at this, but here we go.
Famed Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner is now entering a new race for the governor of California.
I've always been a dreamer.
California.
Hi, Doc. Good to see you. How do I sign up to get a COVID-19 vaccine?
Of course, we have to get an ad right in the middle of it. So hold on 1 second for that. This is the danger with using third-party platforms. But this is we're not Fox News yet.
Envy of the world. We had what everyone else wanted. The American dream grew up here.
So right away, Caitlyn is trying to appeal to conservatives, I think, by talking about the American dream. That's usually a conservative thing. The liberal left wants you to think the American dream is dead or that it's a passé thinking thing. So right away, it seems like Caitlyn is trying to put out or trying to appeal to conservatives. And of course, that's smart because Caitlyn would have to win a primary. There's probably going to be many other Republicans in the race. Let's continue.
Yet career politicians and their policies have destroyed that dream. It's been locked away, closed, shuttered, left in the dark, burned down. The government is now involved in every part of our lives.
All right. Again, another traditional conservative, it's what we say, it's the alternative to our name, freedom and prosperity versus government control and misery. Caitlyn Jenner appears to be right on message, at least as far as I'm concerned, on that. Let's continue.
They've taken our money, our jobs, and our freedom. California needs a disruptor, a compassionate disruptor.
All right, I like the disruptor part. Dare to disrupt. The compassionate disruptor, George Bush tried that, compassionate conservatism, and that didn't work out today. All right, so I'm a little, that's a little question mark right there. Compassionate disruptor, obviously an appeal to other trans people and probably the LGBTQ community. Let's go on.
I came here with a dream 48 years ago to be the greatest athlete in the world. Now I enter a different kind of race, arguably my most important one yet, to save California.
To save California. Is that a make America great again kind of thing? Was that an appeal to Trump voters? I don't know. Interesting. Let's go.
I want to carry the torch for the parents who had to balance work and their child's education, for business owners who were forced to shut down, for pastors who were not able to be with their congregation, for the family who lost their home in a fire, for an entire generation of students who lost a year of education. This past
So again, that's kind of another Trumpism there, just like Trump in his first campaign. And he made a mistake by not really, I believe Trump did, by not really stressing this in his second campaign. But he was going to be the voice for those who didn't have a voice. Here, Caitlyn Jenner is saying the same thing, using the term, I'm going to carry the torch for those who don't have a voice.
Last year has redefined our career politicians as elitists and the people of California as the warriors, the kings, and the angels.
So the elitists, again, going after the elitists, just like we do, the self-proclaimed elitists who think they know better what's best for our lives.
We never take kindly to glass ceilings here. Instead, we shatter them.
This one's way out there.
We're the trailblazers, the innovators. California is facing big hurdles. Now, we need leaders who are unafraid to leap to new heights.
He does not want to finish second in this race. He wants the world record.
Who are unafraid to challenge and to change the status quo.
Unafraid to take on the swamp. Very, very interesting symbolism here by Caitlyn Jenner. Without using the Trump words, to me, this sounds a lot like Trump-style campaigning. What do you think so far? Let's finish up.
I want to prove that it is absolutely possible if we only do it together.
California, it's time to reopen our schools, reopen our businesses, reopen the Golden Gates. So I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, I'm running to be governor for all California.
Now, that's a Joe Biden thing. I don't care for Republican, Democrat. I'm running to be president. Biden said for everyone. So interesting. Let's go.
To reclaim our true identity, to bring back the gold to the Golden State.
What a tremendous victory.
Now is the time to achieve that summit, to be the shining city on the hill.
Whoa, did you hear that? Where have you heard that before? To be the shining city on the hill. From the ultimate conservative Californian and the ultimate American, Ronald Reagan. The shining city on the hill. This is one hell of an ad, folks. One hell of an ad. We don't, it doesn't really define a lot of policies yet, but let's finish up. This is one hell of an ad.
And together, we'll restore and renew the California dream.
It's about what happens from here.
Restore and renew. Make California great again, right? Same idea.
It's not just about one person. It's about all of us.
Folks, that is a terrific campaign ad. I'm not saying I'm supporting Caitlyn Jenner for governor or not supporting Caitlyn Jenner for governor. But that's a hell of a start. And I'm going to be really curious to see where this goes. The trans world is already, and the left are already going berserk over this. Take a look at some of these tweets out there. Here's just going after Caitlyn. How dare Caitlyn not follow the trans line? This is almost like the way Clarence Thomas was ridiculed for not towing the liberal line because he's black. Well, here Caitlyn Jenner is being criticized for not following the progressive line because Caitlyn's a trans gender person. Just look. This year. So the viciousness of the liberal left and the progressive cancel culture is going to be coming out against Caitlyn Jenner. And I'll be really interesting to see how far that goes. And I'll be really interesting to see if Republicans can be sold on the message and the messenger, for that matter. All right. Speaking of messengers and messages, let's bring on Tyler Rowley. Tyler is a longtime warrior in social conservative circles, big pro-life advocate, very plugged in, very religious man, written some great stuff, met him only on a few occasions. Tyler, welcome to In the Dugout.
Thank you for having me on, Mike. Appreciate it.
I see you got a cap in the dugout. What cap do you have on for us today?
Well, it's Under Armour, so I turned it around. It's not really a cool one. but Larry told me we're getting in the spirit. I already had my workout clothes on, so he said throw a baseball hat on. I said, you got it.
All right. Now you driving right now?
I'm pulled over. When you have 4 kids, this is where you go to hide when you have interviews.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen again. And on the Ocean State Current, we reproduced an article of yours. You go to oceanstatecurrent.com and scroll down, you see some of our in the dugout. But then you wrote an article. Now, tell us where this originally appeared, first of all, but it's called Fathers Take Your Family to Mass. Where did this first appear, Tyler?
So this first appeared on Catholic Exchange. So I wrote a book for Ignatius Press where I wrote it and I edited it. It's 23 essays about how people's fathers raised them to be Catholic. And one common question I got after writing that book was, okay, so what are the practical takeaways? How did these fathers raise their children to be serious, committed Catholics? So what I've started to do is basically a to-do list of these practical things that these fathers did in my book. And I'm putting them, I made a list and I'm putting each one into an article. So the first one, which was probably
all right, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off because I think you're going to say what I was about to say. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the first one in the list, the article I wrote is all about taking back Sunday, regaining the culture one step at a time. And sort of the theme around these articles is that, there's so many big things that are facing this country. And from a Catholic perspective, I think even bigger when you're talking about problems facing America and the Catholic Church. There's scandal, there's, we lost the election, there's all sorts of stuff happening. The country's changing, the church is sowing confusion. And we have this tendency as men to want to always go after the big problems and solve these huge, monster problems. And the point of the article is make a list and start regaining the culture one father at a time, one step at a time. And number one on the list is take your family to mass.
So before we go there, I want, in the article, I just want to explain to viewers what really caught me because I thought it was such great advice, Tyler. You're right. There's so much, we can look at the world, we can look at our state, we can look at the state of our church. And I'm a Catholic as well. And you feel so overwhelmed and it's like too much. Like what can little me do? But you're saying that if you make your list and think about the things you can impact, like your family and like your circle, and you start with small but doable steps, you can make a difference, right? And rather than trying to figure out how to solve all of the world's problems, that's not on any one of us to do, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, St. Thomas Aquinas refers to this as the order of charity, right? So we're not called first to go, love people in distant lands. The first people we should love is our family, and then our countrymen, and then and it's a sphere that kind of that circles outward.
And God.
And St. Paul talks about this in scripture, that if you're not taking care of your family, you're a heathen. So a lot of people have this tendency to neglect the people closest to them, to neglect their the most common responsibilities that they have. And a lot of times we do it out of a purposeful distraction. So I open up the article with sort of a funny innuendo about the sitcom The Office, which I'm a big fan of. Yeah. And Michael Scott, he's going to start his own paper company. And then all of a sudden it dawns on him how daunting this task is going to be. So he turns to Pam and he says, we need to find 100 clients today. And he's really he's putting off the inevitable that he has to get down to work. No, he's not going to find 100 clients today. You're not going to get Biden out of office tomorrow. You're not going to solve, the church's confusion tomorrow. But are you doing all the little things that you can do? And then if you are, then go a step further.
And those little things are the foundational things, as it turns out, aren't they?
They are, and that's why Christ talks about having a firm foundation. Often, if you don't have a firm foundation, everything you do is going to fall apart after that. Exactly, and it starts with your family. So it's
right,
about.
So let's talk about Sunday Mass. Why is that so important?
Sunday Mass is important because by man's nature, we have a natural inclination to want to know who our Creator is and to give him our time. So it's not that you're supposed to give 1 hour on this specific day to your Creator, but that's the law of the church, because it's natural to man to set aside some amount of time on a normal, regular basis to acknowledge that he was created by someone, that he does owe allegiance to that person, and that he has an eternal soul. And if you don't have a regular pattern of recognizing that, then your foundation is going to be secular, it's going to be worldly, and it's eventually going to fall apart into what we see our country falling apart in today, which is secularism. So it's natural to man to worship God in a regular way. And the Catholic Church, has a specific pattern of, these times on this day, and that's how you do it. And what's important is that, Sunday Mass it's a perfect form of worship. But then I talk about after Mass, Sunday is not over.
Yeah, it's bigger than just worship, right? It's about you and your family enjoying some time together, right?
Right. So Tony Esolen in my book, he talks about how after Mass, Sunday wasn't over. And he talks about how his big Italian family went over to the grandparents every single week, and the kids sat 2 by 2 up the stairs, and they ate spaghetti and meatballs every single Sunday. These traditions are what keep us together. These traditions are what keep the families together. So I talk about going to Mass, sharing a meal, and having fun. Like a child should make the connection between being a Christian and being joyful. That those two things shouldn't be separated. Being a Christian, knowing and loving God, and being joyful over a meal, those things should all be connected. And 50 years ago, my understanding is that these things were very well connected in people, and businesses closed and time slowed down, and families spent time together, and they shared a meal, and they played baseball, and they had fun. And the church, Christianity, religion made sense to kids, and it was something that gave them a positive connotation. Today it's a negative connotation because it's just one other thing that we jam into our week.
Well, yeah, and the culture, the government is trying to become the religion, right, rather than God becoming the religion. They want people to worship government now and government programs rather than God and all His grace. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. I mean, yeah, the role of the government and the life of the church are interwoven, and they affect one another, and our bloated government and what it is seeking to do to the family. Now, my theory is that all of this stuff is intentional in a way, because the more families you have, the more intact religious families you have, the more conservatism you have. The less families and that you have intact, that means a mom and a dad in a lifelong relationship with the children that they created in the same house. That's a family. The less of those that we have, the more liberalism and secularism and worldlyism that creeps into our society. So I think
the more breakdown of our culture, of course.
Right. So everything from abortion to divorce to the LGBT agenda, this is all designed to create less families. Families creates order and peace. When you have order and peace, you have time to pray and contemplate and be happy and to recognize the blessings that you have. It leads to conservatism. Chaos leads to progressivism, and they want chaos, and we know they want chaos.
They want chaos so they can position government as the savior when we really know there's only one savior. All right, your article also mentions, I think it's important, I think you didn't say these words yet, but you've basically been implying this in everything you said, to also treat Sundays as the seventh day of creation, as the Sabbath that it was originally intended to be.
Yeah, that gets back to what I was saying, that man is by design his nature is to set aside time for God. This has very little to do with a theological debate over creation, on what day God rested. Those are biblical themes in order to get across a much larger point, which is that there is a God. You were created by him, that you have an obligation to him, that man by nature needs some sort of rhythm in his life. The rhythm of the Catholic Church is to worship God on Sunday. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me. So I want to encourage our viewers to go to oceanstatecurrent.com. It's on the homepage. I think it's a third item on our homepage, and read the whole article. It's really fascinating. It's really great work, Tyler. I want to spend our last 5 minutes just on some related topics. We are, this is your first appearance on our show, but it's not going to be your last. We've talked before, and we're hoping to have you on regularly to discuss social conservative or social issues, discuss issues related to the Catholic Church, and so forth. So let me ask you two in that regard. First of all, I've seen, I haven't really read in detail, but I've seen the headlines that apparently Catholic bishops across the country, not all of them certainly, but many of them are debating whether or not Joe Biden, President Biden, who claims to be a Catholic, should be served communion, giving his pro-abortion position, his avid pro-abortion position. What do you know about that, and what are your thoughts on that issue?
Joe Biden is outside of communion with the Catholic Church. We call the Eucharist communion for a reason. It is the symbol which unites us in belief. Joe Biden does not have the same beliefs. He does not have the same practices. And therefore, it is beyond, the handwriting is beyond written on the wall that Joe Biden should absolutely 100% not be receiving communion because he is outside of communion with the Catholic Church. Do I have confidence that we have enough bishops with big enough balls to step up and do the right thing? No, I don't, sadly. But I'm gonna speak the truth, and I'm gonna take my family to mass, and I'm gonna teach people what the true teachings of the church are, and I'm gonna encourage my bishop to do the right thing. But yeah, we could have a whole show on what the church teaches, what canon law says. But Joe Biden is.
We'll do that sometime. All right, we'll do an in-depth on that because I think people need to be reminded. I think a lot of people have forgotten, or a lot of people who are Catholics never even learned this properly in the first place. So let's do that. All right. Hey, just very quick on this. All right, very quick. There's this. We talked about some of his writings long time ago on the show last summer or something. But this former bishop, Archbishop Vigano, is very critical of the church. Are you familiar with his stuff, and does he have any credibility?
I think Archbishop Vigano is speaking from a place of love for the sheep. He's a shepherd speaking in love for the sheep that he's trying to shepherd. I think that he deserves credit for sounding the alarm on things like the Great Reset, which is not a conspiracy theory anymore. I mean, the left, the global elitists, leftists across the world are trying to reset how we how we conduct everything from the economy to our religion. Vagano was one of the first people to talk about that. Are there some things that maybe it doesn't seem like he's backed up yet? Yeah, I think there are.
You think he's credible largely?
I think he's a credible man. I think he's a good priest. I think if we had more priests and bishops like Vagano, then we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in.
Now, do you agree with me? I'll tell you what, this great reset, in my view, is just code for communism.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And what bothers me the most, and I've said it often on this show, oh, how I wish Pope John Paul II was back. I saw him in the Boston Commons when I was a student at Harvard, the Catholic Church at Harvard. Got some tickets and we went and saw him in the pouring rain that day. I'll never forget that day in 1979, I think, the fall, of 79, maybe, if I remember correctly. But he was my hero, along with Ronald Reagan, along with Margaret Thatcher. They were the big three that banded together to fight communism. What Pope Jean Paul did in his home country of Poland, and with Lech Walesa and with everybody else. And my hero, and now to see our current Pope all but endorsing socialist programs and socialist forms of government, and seemingly supporting globalism. I don't know if he's supporting the Great Reset directly. I can't be, as a Catholic, I am so troubled in my soul. Can you help heal me in some way on that, Tyler?
Yeah, I can. It's good that you're troubled in your soul, because you should be. And Pope Francis's stance and beliefs on socialism and capitalism and global markets has no bearing on whether Jesus Christ is God incarnate who died on the cross for us. And we have lived, and if you study the life of the church, we've had monsters that were popes. I mean, monsters, men who would who make Pope Francis look, like John Paul II the Great. So we can't leave Christ.
So I'm separating, you're separating faith from the church at times, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
that's how I'm justifying it. My faith has never been stronger, but I've never had such lack of faith in the church itself, as an institution.
Yeah, I mean, the key term is you can't leave Jesus because of Judas, right? So anytime a priest or a bishop or a cardinal or pope says something wrong or does something morally wrong that has no bearing on the truth, it's unfortunate. We cringe. It hurts our soul. It hurts because it's so closely tied to the church that we love. But the truth doesn't change in the Catholic Church. That's the reason I'm Catholic, because I don't have to worry about being part of a religion that, no matter how bad the person is, he's going to change everything along with him. That can't happen in the Catholic Church.
Excellent work. All right, go ahead. I got one more question for you, then I get to our next guest.
Go ahead. No, but I'll just close. But I feel your pain. There's nothing wrong with you feeling like that. And if you and Pope Francis were having a debate about the economy, you'd probably know you'd probably know more than him. And there's nothing wrong. We live in a world where everybody has a microphone, and unfortunately, the Pope speaks with a microphone on topics that aren't related to the faith and morals, but are sort of outlier issues. And I think he gets a lot of stuff wrong in that regard too.
All right. Last question. This is from one of our viewers who wrote on YouTube. This is Roland. And I'll read you the question in a second directly. And I want to say I've expressed some concern over this back many months ago when the shutdowns and lockdowns started in this state with the pandemic. I haven't been overly critical on it, but it still is another one of those things. So the question is, I wonder what Tyler thinks about Bishop Tobin caving to government and closing the churches at the beginning of COVID. And then I'll add, really without any fight, especially when there was clear religious discrimination in Governor Raimondo's initial capacity orders. So your thoughts on Bishop Tobin when it comes to that?
I love my bishop. I think he's a great bishop. I think it's hard to be a leader. I think when you're put in the spot, it's tough to make these decisions, at the time when you have a lot of pressure. If I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed that he did it. I think, I'm on the way. I'm on one far side, whatever you want to call it, of this whole COVID thing. I think it's nutty. I don't wear a mask. I don't social distance. I live my life. I take my family out. I'll never put a mask on my children. I've never missed mass since this thing started. I think the reaction has been insane. I think we're going to see the ramifications for what we did to our country with COVID for a long time to come. I wish that Bishop Tobin would have stood up to the pressure, and I know that's hard. I wish he never would have closed any church, never would have taken away the obligation. We basically told all the Catholics in this state that that this is not a necessity, that this is not a requirement, and that's going to have ramifications for people's spiritual understanding of what Catholicism is, what the mass is.
Yeah, what great words, Tyler, again. And I think there is a way to, in the words, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's. I think there's a way you can follow the law, follow the executive orders, but still voice your conscientious objections as a leader. And silence, to me, was not leadership. So we'll just end it at that. Tyler Rowley, what a great discussion. We're going to have you back regularly to talk about related issues, talk about articles and other products you put out, but we are going to have you regularly back on the show. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
God bless, Mike. Thank you so much.
God bless, Tyler Rowley. Wow. What an interesting discussion. Listen, I know religion isn't for everybody, not all our followers, but if you are religious, I mean, the debates you can have about religion versus faith versus what's man-made versus what's God's. I mean, it's and then, how do you balance that, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God? But it's such fascinating stuff. And I just think it's good debate. We love good open debate. I hope it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable if you're not of the religious type. I hope you just appreciate the debate, even if it's not for you. All right. Now, one thing that's not for me, because I don't know what the hell it is blockchain and cryptocurrency. All right. So maybe it's for me in the future, but right now I have no idea what the heck it is. So let's bring on our guest today, Cade Almendinger. Welcome to In the Dugout.
Hi, Mike. Happy to be here. Since I'm on the dugout, I guess I got to put on my cap.
Yeah. What do you got for us?
I'm representing the Bristol County Fife and Drum Corps.
I love it.
My fiance is a fifer in the group, and
fifer, like one of these deals.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Kind of like
it's a piccolo, right?
Yeah, it's some sort of flute, and they got like drummers, and they're trying to talk me into being one of the gunners, shooting blanks. And
I grew up in Gaspé watching all those drum and fife groups come down with the gas. She ever got march in the Gaspé Day Parade? Did she ever?
No, I'm not from here originally, but yeah, like before COVID was happening, they're doing all the parades and stuff, and they're starting to get back into it and allowed to be doing it some more. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, so I don't even know where to start with all this. Should we start with cryptocurrency or blockchain? What does one set up the other?
Yeah, let's start with blockchain first. I mean, they kind of go a little bit hand in hand. Yeah, if you're completely new to it, I guess the easiest way to describe blockchain.
Before we go there, you are a consultant in this business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my background is I was probably early to the space. I heard about Bitcoin in 2012 and really got into it 2016, 2017. And yeah, for the last several years, I've been doing consulting. I do I'm also a crypto writer, crypto editor. I write for some of the biggest exchanges in the world. And I do some ghostwriting, crypto consulting, a little bit of everything.
And you're also a member of an aligned group of ours, America's Future Foundation, which our Larry the Liberty guy is one of the state leaders of, right? You're a member of the America's Futures Foundation group.
Yeah, I'm a member. And yeah, I gave a crypto presentation in person at one of the restaurants, and that was good. And
all right, so let's replicate that here. All right, so let's go back. What the hell is blockchain?
Yeah, so a blockchain is a public ledger. You could think of it as a public network. It's immutable, which means it's unchangeable. It's supported by, it's a peer-to-peer network that's supported by nodes that are spread all over the world. They're decentralized. And basically what the blockchain did is it's creating a network, and this can relate to cryptocurrencies. It's creating payment rails that are uncensorable and kind of unstoppable. So it's kind of really a revolutionary technology.
Unbreakable, unhackable.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's been around for since 2009, and yeah, it's never been double spent. It's never been hacked and never been stopped. And I honestly think it never will be. So that's kind of the blockchain is the technology and
Behind the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so a blockchain doesn't always have to be used for cryptocurrency, but yeah, the cryptocurrency travels on the
Right.
blockchain. So
Okay.
think of the blockchain as like the payment rail. So like, you've got different networks. You've got Visa or MasterCard or bank transfers. Those are all payment rails, but they're all controlled by some entity. Bitcoin isn't controlled by anybody, so it can't be shut down.
All right, we'll get into that in a second. Let me go back to blockchain and just put it in layman's terms, and you tell me if I'm even close to being right. Because I've had one discussion with another person. Now I hear what you said. So tell me if this is a layman's way to say what blockchain creates a digital profile that, as you said, is unalterable, unhackable, so that it can validate that it's basically you, or can validate it's the original document and not some hacked version of it, whether it's a contract or a book or something like that. But it creates a digital record and a digital profile that can only be traced and used by the originator, or at least validated by it. So that when transactions or information flows over the internet, you can be sure where that content came from, and you can be sure that it's the original data. Is that close to being right?
Yeah, I mean that's a good take at it. That's a good swing at it. If you
I didn't miss totally.
No, yeah, I think that's a singular or double for sure. Yeah, I mean you pretty much more or less got it. Yeah, the thing is like there's a thing called the Block Explorer. Every single transaction from 2009 to now, you can go online and see every single transaction. So like, for example, with Bitcoin, the one that everyone's heard of, it's called the blockchain because every 10 minutes, a new block is added to the chain. So like the more blocks are added, the longer in the past your transaction was processed, the harder it would be to hack, and it's never been hacked. So every 10 minutes there's transactions, and it's kind of pseudonymous, it's semi-anonymous, so you can see every single transaction, but you might be able to connect it to a person, you might not be. But yeah, it's using cryptography to verify it. So you're not trusting a bank, you're not trusting Visa, you're just trusting the technology.
All right, before we go to the cryptocurrencies, let me put out a few for starters, because this is what was told to me. So let's think of some practical uses for blockchain. So two things, and then I'll comment. You can comment on those two things, and then anything else you want to add. So from a practical perspective, blockchain could be a way to make sure that we have legitimate and validated internet-based voting, for instance. Nobody could pretend they're you, blah, 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 blah. A, and B, it might even eliminate the need for libraries, that every book, everything can be digital. Or think of a municipality that has to store decades and decades of contracts and death certificates and birth records and everything. Once they're digitized and put in blockchain, they're there forever. They can't be hacked. They can't be altered. They're always retrievable. So when it comes to government, it can maybe even reduce the size of government, because now everything can be free digital versus having to have these big places. Am I again close?
Yeah, you're right. Blockchain has a lot of applications. Yeah, blockchain-based voting. I think they're kind of doing some sort of trials with that kind of stuff, like overseas. I mean, it would be great because yeah, you can't. There's been a lot of questions about the voting machines and how accurate they are and if they can work. Yeah, with blockchain-based voting is really a no-brainer. And yeah, I mean, you could also use it for like similar things to voting. Like you could use it for a self-sovereign identity, so people don't impersonate you to get into your bank account or get into your other accounts. some sort of digital identity. And besides cryptocurrency, which I'm sure we'll get into later, yeah, there's inventory tracking.
Right.
There's using.
And once it's not like it's a file that can be deleted or lost. Once it's out there, right? And it's pure. It can't be corrupted and it can't be lost, right?
Yeah, once a transaction's processed, it's basically there, and it's basically there forever. The digital files, it's
no hard drives, no servers, none of that baloney. Say, oh, we lost our server.
There's not
right?
a lot of digital file storage on the blockchain yet. There are some projects that are trying to do that, but it's not quite as efficient as like a centralized solution or like a cloud server like Amazon Web Services. But yeah, that's another thing that's kind of being built out is there's different companies that are building decentralized data storage using blockchain and similar technologies. And it's really, really interesting.
Let's get into cryptocurrencies. First of all, your very high level layman's term definition. What is a cryptocurrency?
Yeah, well, if you look at the Bitcoin white paper, the very first line is the digital peer-to-peer cash network. So
cash, is it backed by cash?
No. So it's a digital cash in the sense. So Bitcoin was meant as an alternative to fiat cash, an alternative to fiat currency, something that can't be censored, that can't be stopped. I mean, cash is great, but with the internet, with the digital world, you can't send cash over the internet. That's the issue. The other issue is being censored. WikiLeaks, they just turn off the payment rails and all of a sudden turn off the bank, and you're kind of in a tough situation. So Bitcoin is designed as a alternative to that. I mean, there are cryptocurrencies that are backed by gold. I mean, it's kind of like
some backed by precious metals?
Yeah, there are. I mean, some people would argue that it kind of takes away the use case of, because it's still censorable. Like, so there's, I think, Pax Gold, there's several others where the gold is in a vault, but it's tokenized on the blockchain. So you can send gold or you can buy it and trade it. But it's also it still has to be in a vault, right? It's gold. It has to be stored somewhere. So it still doesn't quite solve the confiscation problem the way that some people in the Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or crypto community think it should.
All right. So again, let me try my definition of cryptocurrency and you tell me if I swung and missed or not. So cryptocurrency is a money platform for internet and digital transactions, some based on, some backed by a gold or precious metal standard, some not, but ultimately, isn't it more like a commodity you buy and its value can go up or down like a commodity can? And if it goes up, you have more buying power. If it goes down, you have less buying power. So is cryptocurrency basically just a commodity that instead of being a consumable commodity, it's a commodity that you use to trade with?
Yeah, I mean that's one issue that's being worked out right now is one issue is there's so many different cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin was the original, and it was originally supposed to be like everything that money is, a store of value.
Is Bitcoin a Doge, or is a Doge a different currency?
Dogecoin is a different currency. Dogecoin was meant as a meme, as a joke to get people into Bitcoin. It's a source code fork. It has a lot of the same characteristics as Bitcoin, but it wasn't never intended to be money. But because of Elon Musk and all these other people, they got really into it. But yeah, so Bitcoin is supposed to be all those things that money is, medium exchange, using an account, store of value. Now, because the transaction fees on Bitcoin are so high, people just kind of think of it as gold 2.0, a digital version of gold, because it's kind of expensive to transact.
Is it unlimited, or is there a limited supply of crypto?
It's a hard cap. So Bitcoin is hard capped at 21 million coins. It's mined. It's, I think, around 18, 19 million right now. And it's a decaying release. Every 4 years, the mining rewards are halved. But it's capped at 21 million, unlike fiat currency, which can be printed ad nauseum. So that's why it's gone up from 10,000 to 20,000 to now it's fluctuating.
Well, who puts the cap on? Who's controlling this?
What's the cap on it? It's controlled
who put the cap? I mean, who is controlling this? In America, we got the Federal Reserve controls the dollar. Who controls crypto? Who put this cap on?
as far as Bitcoin, no one controls the cap. Once the source code's out there, it's set. Even the person that created it or the people that created it can't change it now. So Satoshi Nakamoto is the anonymous person or group of people that created Bitcoin. So even they cannot change it now.
So within Bitcoin, there's always only going to be those 21 million coins, whether you divvy them up or not, like a stock split, I guess, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, so there's 21 million, and just in case you didn't know, each one is divisible into very divisible. I think each one's divisible into 100 million units called a Satoshi. So my mom's like, oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin. It's like, you can buy a tenth of a Bitcoin, a thousandth of a Bitcoin, a 10,000th of a Bitcoin. It's divisible just like a dollar is divisible into 100 pennies.
So you have a Bitcoin bank account, if you would, and then if I have, so what is one Bitcoin worth these days?
I don't know. I don't check the price every day, but
Roughly.
I think it's probably around 58, 59K, I think, last time I checked.
$59,000 for one Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So I can spend 0.002 Bitcoins to buy a hamburger if I want, right?
Yeah, I mean, the original Bitcoin doesn't work very well for small purchases.
Okay.
I mean, there was a controversy. We can get into the weeds, but there's a fork of Bitcoin called Bitcoin Cash that works better for making small purchases. I'm in the Bitcoin Cash group in Boston. We've went up to restaurants and I've used Bitcoin Cash to buy coffee, buy a salad.
What does that mean, Bitcoin Cash? What does that mean?
Bitcoin Cash is a fork of Bitcoin. There is controversy
like an
about,
app, and you can actually use it like I can my credit card.
Yeah, I think it works really well. I mean, I sent Larry, our mutual friend, some Bitcoin Cash when we were in the train, very simply. He just had a QR code. I swiped it, it's done. And after I sent it to him, it's his. I can't reverse the transaction. I can't get it back. It's his. So I'm a big fan of Bitcoin Cash. And there's so many different cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is one that people are talking a lot about. But yeah, there's different versions. It's kind of like, think of it like fiat currencies. Like there's all these different competing fiat currencies, you know, the dollar's doing okay, but it's not doing great compared to the Venezuela Bolivar or something, you know,
or the British pound. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, let's wrap up with these two questions then. It's sort of an investment. I mean, it's not like you get cash. I mean, it can go up or down in value, right? So it has risk to it, right? If you want to, can anybody buy Bitcoin right now? Some Bitcoins? Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, in the US right now, because of the law, you kind of have to do like a KYC, AML thing to sign up in an exchange. Like,
what the hell's that mean?
Well, just like if you sign up for a brokerage account, you have to do know your customer. They have to verify your identity, just like you sign up for a bank or a brokerage account. On the early days, you could just literally go online and just buy it. It was, or like if
now you got to work through a cryptocurrency broker, basically.
Yeah, or you could do like a peer-to-peer exchange. But yeah, just because.
And do you recommend? The prices are sky high. Are they going to go higher? Is it a good investment right now? What's your recommendation? No liability here, just your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say. I mean, right now it's at the peak, so I don't know if I would get into it right now, but I think long term it's still going to go up. I mean, it also depends on what you're talking about: Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin Cash. Some people think Bitcoin
that goes up and down at a different rate than Bitcoin.
Yeah, it does. I mean, some people think Bitcoin's going to hit 100K this year. Like when it was lower, I was really bullish. And I'll just tell you a funny, quick investment story. Like my team a couple of years ago, when Bitcoin was 20K, I said, like, yeah, I think long term you're going to do really well for yourself. And people just put a bunch of money in on my team, and then it goes down to like 13K, and everyone panic sells and loses a bunch of money. But I just told them to buy it and hold it. If they would have held it, they would have more than tripled their money. So I think a lot of people, if you can't handle fluctuation and volatility, it's probably not the asset for you. But long term, I'm pretty bullish. Not financial advice, but over 90% of my savings and my investments are in crypto and precious metals, and most of it's in crypto. So,
all right, last question. What is the ultimate vision for cryptocurrencies? Are they going to replace Are they always going to be an alternative means to cash or credit cards or, bank accounts or traditional or is the vision that in 10, 20, 50 years, cryptocurrency is the only way we do business? What's the vision here?
I think cryptocurrency is the future. There's a lot of different ideas on this. Some people think it'll be an alternative. Some people think it'll fully replace it. Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin is going to replace gold as the reserve currency that every central bank will use. They're talking about central bank digital currencies. In a lot of countries, we're already seeing tons of adoption with our cryptocurrencies. Places like Venezuela, they're using Bitcoin Cash. They're using Dash. You're seeing tons of cryptocurrency usage in Southeast
Their economy's
Asia.
in a shambles. Why do you keep bringing up Venezuela?
Because cryptocurrency is an escape hatch for people that don't have one. Whether it's Venezuela or capital controls.
Right, because cash is worthless over there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you're trying to flee a country, you can't just put a bunch of gold bars in your suitcase. You just can't do that. But you can keep cryptocurrency in your head. If you memorize the private key, you can put it in a little USB drive or a hardware wallet, and you can literally transfer millions of dollars in value without having, a huge car full of gold or something. It's just revolutionary.
Wow. And can you see an old guy like me using Bitcoin Cash or cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I mean, if you can use a smartphone, you can use cryptocurrency. I
don't mean from a technical point of view, but just accepting it from a cultural point of view. Can you see a guy like me using it?
Yeah, well, I can tell you're skeptical right now. I mean, I think there's a lot of smart people that are skeptical, and some people think it's a complete scam. I'm a fan of Peter Schiff, but I think he's completely wrong about cryptocurrency. You got to check out his
what's he
Twitter.
say about it?
Yeah, I mean, he thinks it's going to zero, but he's been saying that for 5 years. And
wow, okay.
He said Peter
so there is that risk. It could triple, it could go to zero, right? You admit that, right? It could, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll never go to zero because there'll always be someone that'll purchase it. I mean, even if it went to a penny, but I think that's so unlikely. I mean, that's like saying gold. For me, that's almost like saying gold would go to zero. I just think it's so unlikely. But yeah, I mean, people have been saying Bitcoin's going to die for 10 years, like ever since it started. Peter Schiff said Bitcoin would never hit 20K. It would never hit 30K. He said it would never hit 50K. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I mean, this is just like a interesting little use case. You're talking before about using a centralized platform. This is literally just like a microblog that I did, and you can tip in Bitcoin Cash.
Huh.
All right.
Listen, we're at the end of our time. Listen, we're going to have you back. If this is potentially the future, we need to educate our viewers about this. So we'll have you back. Now, Cade Allmendinger. Now, I'm sure there's a proper way to say that name. What is that? Does that sounds German? Is it German?
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, Cade Allmendinger.
That's the way you say it. There's no Allmending J or anything like that. Something fancy like that.
You got it the first time. But yeah, some people in the crypto space call me Blockade. But yeah, I'd be happy to come on again. And yeah, hit me with those crypto questions. Doesn't matter, fastball, curveball, change up. I'm gonna hit it out of the park. Don't worry.
Well, I'm glad I got a single or a double today in my few at bats with you. So Cade Allmendinger, thank you so much for educating us on blockchain and cryptocurrency. We'll have you back soon. Take care.
No problem. Happy to do it. Maybe I'll make you a believer.
All right. That was fun. I tell you what, that was not just fun. That was educational. I don't know. Should I try this blockchain cash? Larry, you use it? You like it? Larry Liberty guy?
Love it, Sten. Cade made me a believer. He will you too.
Wow. And a lot of places accept it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's all kinds of options online. It's the most accepted cryptocurrency in the world right now. So that could change.
The only reason I would do it would be to impress my two sons, my three sons,
super cool.
too. So they would think I'm cool if I whipped out some crypto cash, right?
Absolutely.
What do I have to get an app on my phone or something like that? Is that how it works?
It would be a great episode of In the Dugout for Cade to walk you through how you sign up for that. We could do that right on the screen. It would be a lot of fun. Let's make that happen.
All right. Thanks again to Cade. We'll do some more crypto. Again, just to summarize our show and the setup for tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot about this Caitlyn for California I mean, this dynamic is just so interesting to me. It presents so many problems for political operatives on the left and the right, for activists. I really want to see how each of those political sides treat Caitlyn. Again, the initial campaign advertisement was absolutely phenomenal, not just in its production value, but of course, more importantly, in its message. Again, the message wasn't overtly conservative, liberal, whatever, but it had hints. To me, it had a lot of hints, a lot of Trump type hints, a lot of Reagan type hints, a lot of conservative type hints in it, a little bit of a Joe Biden type hint in it, which is what you got to do. Really a brilliant advertisement. We'll see how the campaign unfolds, and we'll be watching it and commenting on it as we go along. Then we had a terrific talk. I can't wait to have Tyler Rowley back on. That's so interesting. Talk about this interaction between religion and government. Again, the famous Jesus line, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's. Where is that line? Where is that line? I'm so disappointed in the way this Pope is supporting socialist programs, and I'm somewhat disappointed in the way our diocese just lay down and let the government walk all over them. Although, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, right? So we'll see. Great discussions, not the kind of discussions you're going to see at other places. Thanks for joining us today and in the